Baik, Assalamualaikum. Are we ready now? We are still waiting, right, for these next sessions. Oh, okay, panel tak masuk lagi. Okay, siapa yang jaga dekat Facebook tu, boleh tolong tak dekat Facebook tu, ni siapa, kalau siapa yang dengar ni, tak tolong kat Facebook tu you all tulis Keynote kan, instead of tulis Keynote, sebab saya tengok semua adalah Keynote, sebenarnya sesi tu bukan Keynote, you tukar kepada session. Siapa yang charge nanti saya jumpa sekejap sebab Keynote tu tak sesuai perkataan tu.
UTM, University Technology Malaysia. Innovative, entrepreneurial, global. A global award-winning university in engineering and technology that coexists in the community to contribute to mankind. We invest in laboratories and facilities, empowering our people to solve life challenges. We nurture innovative minds through research and teaching because innovative minds drive competitive and innovative research culture. Life problems are brought into the labs to test our inventions against imperfections. Our facilities enrich our students' life because conducive environment triggers creative minds. We empower students to be active contributors in the ecosystem. UTM embraces inclusivity and diversity. Together, making a difference, our entrepreneurial talents continue to improve the quality of life. We reach out to where it matters, the society. Treating water for consumption. Our research products and services have made a difference to many lives. We provide engineering solutions for sustainable development, and our engineering solutions uplift the quality of life and well-being. Our experts are mobilized to affected sites to respond to calls for help. We are proud to serve and make a difference. UTM strives with total commitment to attain excellence in science, technology and engineering for the well-being and prosperity of mankind. UTM, prospering lives.
Waalaikumsalam. Siapa? Tajul?
Ya, saya Tajul.
Okey. Sesi tajuk apa
Tajuk saya kejap
240.
efficiency technique for robust IoT ransomware incident handling.
Sebab tadi yang ada pada saya ni topik berbeza ni.
Sebab saya pukul 2.40.
Room 5 ke?
2.40 saya room teknologi
Rasanya tu streamlight lain tu.
session 3.
Room sekejap saya bagikan link dia dengan Dr. Ilham.
Session link. Dr. Elham. Ya, dia tu Dr. Elham. Dr.
Salah
Elham
masuk link.
Sobati. Oh ya
Saya
ke?
bagi link. Ya. Saya bagi link tu.
Okey. So saya
okey, ke sana right.
exit
Okey. Copy tu dulu.
Saya exit
Copy link tu dulu.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum. Dr. Lukman. Bapak Lukman.
Ya, can you hear me?
Ya,
Bisa
okey,
dengar?
okey. Nah, okey,
Ya.
sudah okey. Ya, alhamdulillah.
Nah, ada
Okey, Pak ya?
ya,
Ya.
presentation itu sudah punya.
Sudah okey, kita bisa mula?
Bisa? No, I mean my presentation PowerPoint. Udah.
Oh, no,
Can you get
we can you resend it to us?
to
If
where?
now if you can this one, for example, if you can share from there, is it possible or no?
I don't know because
You
last
just
one
go
I tried to share. Go to share screen.
doesn't work.
Doesn't work.
Oh, can try again while we are waiting for this one? Dr. Ugar also around.
Or can you
Marhaba.
can you send me your mobile phone, then I can send you, because I've sent to the committee of the seminar.
Okay. 60.
60.
Ada. Okay, we have it already. Okay.
Oh, you have it already. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Assalamualaikum, Dr. Ugar. How are you?
Okay,
I'm okay, alhamdulillah. How about you?
You come from the tour? Okay, alhamdulillah. You come from the, where do you come from?
Turkey.
Oh, okay, Turkey.
Okay, boleh.
Okay.
Okay, boleh share lah. Tak apa, ada kosong. Boleh tutup lah.
All right, now it is there.
Okay.
Yes, good.
Okay. But first is Dr. Edmil first.
No, you
I'll be
can
the
start
second.
first. Okay, you can
Dr.
start first.
Yes,
Dr.
yes, you can have the floor. It's all right. I think I already sent the video, so I think there will be a video. So it doesn't matter for me if you start or not.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Fine.
Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Lukmanul Hakim. I come from Indonesia, from the University of Muhammadiyah, Jakarta. I would like to thank the committee for the seminar for allowing me to be the participant, and all friends here to attend the seminar. My paper now is about the history of pandemic from past to the present, understanding paradigm of Islamic Sharia goal or maqasid in the pandemic, and how Muslims should behave. First, I would like to give kind of an overview of the pandemic in the history. Pandemic in the history. Would you please go to the next session, the next slide, please? Pandemic in the ancient time is firstly caused by the lack of nutrition, because people's life were very simple. So the spread of the pandemic was not just like as in the present time. Then certainly the pandemic gives huge or significant impact on the life of society, and also it is not as at the present, it's not as huge as the present time, but in the course of history, the pandemic certainly gave huge impact. In the ancient time, for example, it is noted that the pandemic caused by the war is also was also led to the diseases like in Peloponnesus War in Greece. And second one is the Justinian plague, known as Justinian plague. Justinian plague. Justinian was the name of the Rome ruler that the time of the pandemic happened. At the time pandemic happened, now we are facing the COVID-19 as a new form of the pandemic, and certainly gave kind of huge impact on society's life. And certainly it needs kind of new paradigm in life. New paradigm is very important, because paradigm is the system that can give you kind of flexible scheme for life. The word paradigm is actually derived from the idea of Thomas Kuhn about the structure of scientific revolution, and he introduced the word paradigm. Paradigm then is used widely. Okay, next. Would you please go to the next session, to the next slide? In the history, then, up to the present time, the paradigm should be adapted to the situation. And now we are as Muslims. The question is, what should be offered to overcome the situation? For this, for example, I propose to have, for Muslims, to have kind of new paradigm from the goal of Islamic Sharia. The goal of Islamic Sharia is known as Maqasid Sharia. Why it is very important? Because Maqasid Sharia is the Maqasid Sharia is the philosophy of law in Islam. In history, for example, in a history, some diseases or pandemic had happened in Islam, in the history of humankind. We know that Justinian plagues then followed centuries after that, followed by what we call in the West, in European countries, as Black Death, which caused millions of people died. Yeah, Black Death. And in the following centuries or following years, hundred of years, then there were many other pandemics such as smallpox, swine, cholera, Spanish flu, Ebola, HIV, and now coronavirus. I think these are the pandemic or the diseases that people cannot escape, because hundreds of years or tens of years, it emerged again. It emerged again in another form. While for Islamic history, the pandemic happened in some happened many times in Islamic history. For example, we call it Ta'un Shiraway, the outbreak of Shiraway, and at the time of the Caliph Omar, caused 25,000 people died, and the outbreak of Ta'un of Amwas, known as Amwas, and Ta'un of Fatayat, because we call Ta'un of, in Islamic history, it's called Ta'un of Fatayat, because Ta'un of Fatayat means girls, because the victims mostly were girls.
Okay. That one is okay. We'll do.
The next is the importance of Maqasid Sharia as the goal, as paradigm, Maqasid Sharia's goal as the paradigm in COVID-19 situation. In my opinion, it is very important because Maqasid Sharia stresses the importance of survival. Islamic message, the core of Islamic message in the philosophy of Islam contained in Maqasid Sharia is the public interest or maslahah, based on maslahah, maslahah ammah, public interest. And then this concept of public interest is developed by For example, by Shatibi in his book Muwafaqat fi Usul Sharia, to be the basis of Islamic law. For example, keep hifdhuddin, or to keep or to preserve the religion. So the message of Islam, of the law, Islamic law, is actually first to preserve or to keep the religion, and the second to keep the soul, and the third is to keep the reason or mind, and the fourth is to keep the hairs or generation, and the fifth is to keep the uh, property or mal, hifdul mal. This is certainly, as we know, are the need of the people, the need of the people. So the flexibility of the Maqasid al-Sharia, or the philosophy of Islamic law, should become the basis in taking the policy when we are facing the this condition, kind of COVID or outbreak or many other condition. It can be it can be used in other situation which is similar. I mean, the analogy or qiyas in Islam is very, very important, in order that we are not trapped into one kind of thought that to do or to perform religious duty is very strict and we have no choice. While in Islam, it is very flexible. To know the flexibility of Islamic law, people should know in depth about about the philosophy of Islamic Sharia. The basis for this we can find in Quran and Hadith. Yuridullah bikumul yusra wa la yuridu bikumul usr. It means that God just want the easiness for you to perform the religion or religious duty. So Maqasid Sharia is the philosophy of Islamic law. The essence of Islamic law in doing everything, in performing religious duties, is fixed, but the forms is based on or adapted to the situation. It is, for example, in pandemic, if in normal situation people are obliged to do the Jum'ah prayer, but in the pandemic situation, some fatwas, for example, Hay'ah Fatwa Azhar, Hay'ah Misriya, Hayatul Kibar Ulama from Azhar University issued the decree or the fatwa that it is not the obligation when the situation of pandemic or COVID-19 becomes getting worse, is getting worse and worse, getting worse and worse. Uh, also in hadith, so in hadith, basis for being patient in, for example, in hadith Bukhari, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam recommended all the Muslims to be staying at home or not to be going around, which can cause the situation worse. And this is actually the message that Islamic philosophy of Islamic law emphasize in the situation of the pandemic era, of the pandemic time. And for Muslim scholars, the situation has the foundation of we call it usul al-fiqh. I mean, the reason why the issue of fatwa is different from the normal situation. So the qaida or the formulation of Islamic law, for example, in usul fiqh, the Islamic scholar said ad-darurat tubihul mahzurat, for example. Something which is the emergency situation has made the illegitimate one becomes legitimate. And the second one is darul mafasid muqaddam ala jalbil masalih, which means that to prevent danger is becoming priority. To prevent danger is becoming priority rather than to do the good things. For example, to go to the mosque and for congregational prayers for 5 times prayer is good, but because of the conditions of the pandemic, because of the fear of the spread of COVID-19, which becomes which the whose I mean whose statistic, for example, in Indonesia, whose statistics is getting higher and higher, then people are recommended to do the prayer at home. Also, in some of Muslims countries, the popular adhan or prayer call is "Sallu fi rihalikum." This is also applied by, for example, by Muslim countries, Saudi Arabia, in the time of in the case of Hajj. They the government of Saudi Arabia doesn't open the year of Hajj because of the pandemic era, because of the pandemic situation, which they consider becomes higher and higher, the statistic of the victims. And ladies and gentlemen, this is the flexibility of Islamic law. This is the flexibility of Islamic law that is not known widely by the Muslims, because Muslims, most of the Muslims just know the ibadah or the worship uh, on the surface of the message, not in depth, not deep down in the philosophy of the message of Islam. So some of the people make the similarity of the normal condition and COVID condition uh, abnormal, something like this, based on the creed that everything is everything has been destined by God, so we don't have to be fear of the corona. While for Islam, we have to follow the you know, we have to follow the we call it sunnatullah, or the habit that has been uh, the rule of the universe that has been uh, prescribed by God. For example, when you are sick, you have to follow the prescription of the doctor, for example. In this situation, we have to know in depth about this, actually, Muslims community or society. If Muslim society are hard to be given the instruction of this understanding, so the most important is the policy of the government. What should Muslim now, for example, what should Muslim behave in this situation? The Quran has given the in Islamic perspective has given the guidance. For example, the Quran said, "Asta'inu wasta'inu bis-sabri was-salah. Innaha lakabiratun illa 'alal khashi'in." Uh, to have good thinking of Allah is very important. To have good thinking Allah is very important, because at this in the situation of 19 COVID-19, perhaps you can say that most of some people, or even most of the people, uh, get frustrated. Yeah, get frustrated of seeing the future, especially when they are facing the economic problems. They cannot go to do daily activities as it was before. For example, the seller or merchants cannot do uh, selling something food or something just like previous time, and it certainly has an impact on the income. Yeah, on the income. Also, not only that, also for teachers and many other people in a variety, in the various kind of activities. So Islamic guidance gives you know, kind of line, give the guidance. You have to be sabr, you have to be patient, because Allah will give the solution of this. But you have also to obey or to follow the health protocol. And second one is, what should Muslims behave? What should Muslims behave in this situation? A part of being patient is to render everything to Allah by doing the best effort. Doing the best effort, for example, to do the health protocols, and when we are working, we have to adapt to the situation. And the third is to adapt social and religious activities to the situation, as the message of the Islam is the easiness. If it is hard for people to do something, fear of the spread of pandemic, and it is not transgressed transgress, it is not transgressing the rule of religion, better to be staying at home. This is the prescription or the recommendation from, even the order, the command from the Prophet. And fourth is certainly health protocols will be based on the policy of the government, because in this case the government is the body of the institution, legal institution, which becomes the most responsible institution for the life of the people. In Islamic concept, for example, Al-Mawardi in his book Al-Ahkam As-Sultaniyah said, Iqamatud Dawlah lihirasatid din wa dunya. The existence of state, for example, or government, is actually to preserve the life of the people, both worldly life and hereafter. So in this case, we are, as a citizen, for example, actually should obey the health protocol from the government, and do whatever government has determined the regulation. Ladies and gentlemen, these are some points of the thought that can be shared in relation to the pandemic, history of pandemic in the world, and in Islam in particular, in the world in general, in Islam in particular, and how should Muslim behave, how Muslims should behave based on the Quranic teachings or Islamic teaching. Thank you very much. I hope this can be of benefit for all of us to share one another. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Dr. Luqman Hakim, for your insights on the subject, which is very beneficial. We hope that our viewers will benefit from your talk and points that you mentioned. Now, please wait, because we might have some question after the second presentation. Now, I would like to call upon Dr. Wigar to share his presentation. Please.
Assalamualaikum. I mean, I had a video presentation recorded earlier and sent to you. So, are you going to put it on, or should I do it again?
We will try to help you. Okay. Please wait. Something, please. While waiting,
Okay. All right. Then I will just introduce myself. I am Uygar Aydemir from Üsküdar University in
Dear
Istanbul.
participant, this is Uygar Aydemir from Üsküdar University.
Okay. Kang Anand. Okay, please introduce yourself, Dr. Uygar, and then after that I will click.
Yes, I'm Uygar Aydemir. I'm a historian, and I work at Üsküdar University. So I already pre-recorded the video, thinking that the internet may not allow. So we can watch it together, I think, because then when there is a question, then I'm still here.
So okay,
Now I would like to present you my presentation on which is called The Reviving Breath of Death, Seeking New Political Beginnings After Epidemics in History. I will share with you the part of my paper about political legitimacy and epidemics. The question of sorry, I will start again. The question of where the legitimacy of political authority comes from intrigued both political theorists and philosophers in history. While the problem of political legitimacy resulted in the concept of the divine right of kings in pre-modern Europe and the idea of the circle of justice in the Ottoman Empire, one of the determining concepts of Chinese politics and the key word of political legitimacy in pre-modern China was the concept of the mandate of heaven. According to this concept, the Chinese emperor had the permission and the will of the heavens to rule people. That is, he was the deputy of the heavens on earth. However, this mandate was not absolute and indefinite in theory. In case the emperor could not take adequate precautions against situations such as famine, drought, epidemic, and widespread misery in the country, this situation could be interpreted as that the emperor no longer had the mandate of heaven and that the heavens would have someone else to rule the people on earth. After all, the concept of the mandate of heaven emerged after the Zhou dynasty replaced the Shang dynasty in China in the 11th century BCE. The new dynasty established its political legitimacy with the propaganda that the old one failed at ruling the people. Thus, the concept contained within itself the justification of successful popular uprisings. When the life condition of the people got worse, a rebel could revolt against the ruler, and if he succeeds, he would take over the mandate of heaven, and this change would be read as a reflection of the will of the heavens. The problem of political legitimacy in Europe was solved with the concept of the divine right of kings. This concept claimed that the ruling king and his dynasty were chosen by God. Therefore, the administration had to remain within this dynasty, at least on a theoretical level. Excuse me. This, of course, did not mean that kings or dynasties were never questioned in practice, but at least it meant that they got their legitimacy not from the practical situation, but from a theoretical acceptance. Still, this theoretical acceptance had a dimension in the welfare of the people. However, in Islamic societies, one cannot speak of a chosen dynasty. The legitimacy of the dynasty came from its just and fair administration. The criterion of the just administration was the lack of arbitrary rule in the country. That is, the ruler observed the Sharia and people were prosperous. In this case, consistent legality, which was also referred to as the circle of justice, that is, the application of justice in accordance with the Sharia and the welfare of the people, resulted in the legitimacy of the Islamic ruler or sultan. Of course, although the king had the divine right in Europe, this right would be also severely restricted over time by the law on the basis of the welfare of the people. The concept of the mandate of heaven was put aside in China starting with the Cultural Revolution, as the concept had the potential to put pressure on the central authority during epidemic times. The leaders after him did not bring it up again. China's current political leader, Xi Jinping, who saw no problem in reviving some of China's traditions, was said to stay away from this concept. As stated above, the reason for this is that although this concept gives the ruler a legitimacy, it also gives the people the right to revolt or the chance to attempt to seize power for the periods in which political administration fails or shows impotence. Indeed, the concept once again came to surface during demonstrations that started in Taiwan in 2014 and Hong Kong in 2019. Apart from these recent uprisings, neither of which ended with the success of the demonstrators, the last successful revolt against China's central government using this concept took place in 1911 in Wuhan against the Qing dynasty. It was frequently stated that the epidemic that started a century later in the same city, similar to the one in Chernobyl, provided grounds for the claims that Xi Jinping proved that he did not have the right and ability to rule China anymore. This was due to the fact that while the justification of the mandate of heaven, that is the legitimacy of the ruler, lied in the welfare of the people in the traditional period and on the ideological ground in Mao's period, it shifted to capitalism and nationalism with Deng. However, recently, with China's growth slowing, Xi has become unable to generate legitimacy from any of the other options mentioned above, except for nationalism. It can be stated that the underlying reason for the Chinese government's efforts to suppress the news of the epidemic and to control the meaning of the epidemic stems from their desire to prevent the resurfacing of this pre-modern thinking practice. Epidemics are undoubtedly historical moments in which political legitimacy comes under question in the rest of the world as well. In this respect, how people make sense of epidemics and feel in the face of epidemics are of direct concern to the political power. The first thing to be said about the meanings given to epidemics is that people refuse to acknowledge that epidemics start by accident. The common and most dominant theme of hundreds of treatises in the Muslim and Christian worlds written on epidemics in the pre-modern era suggests that epidemics are caused by a reason, whether spiritual or material, physical or political. This bias is shared also by historians in their retrospective reading of historical events. One of the important impulses underlying historians' view of the Black Death as the precursor of early modernity is to believe in that such a disaster, which resulted in the death of tens of millions of people, could not have happened without leading to something better. On the other hand, the same line of thinking could also conclude that, as Getz points out, the remedy for social renewal is the death of tens of millions. Undoubtedly, such a reading is enough to put goosebumps on one's hair. As Getz said in her article examining the claim that the Black Plague was the prelude to early modernity, these historians believe that, quote, history like a novel ought to make sense, and how could the death of most of the population of Europe have happened for no good reason, end of quote. In the case of China, the arrival of epidemics meant that the heavens deprived political leaders of the authority to govern the people, while in Europe, epidemics were believed to be caused by the sinful deeds of the people. And it was not only clergy who came to this conclusion. Gabriel de Mussis, a lawyer, expressed this idea in the interesting form of a dialogue between God and the world. In this respect, people were advised to stop committing sins, such as committing usury, and administrators were called to apply the law and prevent such sinful acts that fall under their authority. As for the sins causing epidemics, the relationship between crime and punishment in the Old Testament was brought to the fore. In addition, it was argued that sins spoiled the spiritual air, and the deteriorating spiritual air caused the material air to deteriorate, and material air was, of course, the food for the physical soul. So this would cause a person to get sick in a similar way to that he would when he ate bad food. This was why epidemics were believed to be caused by bad weather, in other words, miasma. Therefore, physical measures taken to distribute the miasma must have been accompanied by spiritual measures. Political governments were responsible for taking both measures. The deterioration of the spiritual air not only made the individual sick, but also degenerated the social ties that bound people together as a society. It was believed that this was the reason behind the behavior such as selfishness and disregard for neighbor rights that emerged in the epidemics. Political authorities were also called to take measures for these situations. Thus, the expansion of such measures taken by central or local administrations eventually resulted in the expansion of political authority over the people in the long run. For this reason, the measures taken for epidemic diseases definitely encountered resistance. As a result, although the measures taken by the states, as stated above, have been resisted to various degrees, political legitimacy has not been shaken in Europe and the Islamic world in the early modern and modern period. On the contrary, it is possible to assert that public health measures have expanded the authority of the state over the people. However, as stated above, outbreaks in China, historically speaking, made it possible to question the political legitimacy of the ruler. In conclusion, this presentation discussed the psychological impact of epidemics on those who experienced them. Besides, it also scrutinized how such experiences and interpretations pushed people to search for new political beginnings. The effect of this search on those who experienced the epidemic was expressed as a desire to make a direct change in their lives. At the center of the political quest, of course, the legitimacy of political authorities was questioned. In fact, European and Ottoman concepts of ruler as the shadow of God on earth, as well as the Chinese concept of the mandate of heaven, both depend on the welfare of the people at the theoretical or practical level. Rulers that could not directly ensure the welfare of the people during epidemics tried to control how epidemic diseases should have been understood, and tried to maintain their political legitimacy by modifying the meaning people gave to the epidemic. Therefore, there were times when they were successful in this practice, as were also times in which strong public reactions eventually led to riots. For example, Ottoman and European scholars started to use medical concepts rather than religious concepts in explaining the causes of epidemics in their treatises, written in the early modern period, and transformed the public perception of epidemics from metaphysical to medical. Thus, by controlling the meanings of words and facts, they were able to control the people who used and experienced them. On the contrary, in China, epidemics provided the people in history with a legitimate reason for revolt. As a matter of fact, the relationship between epidemics and riots were tighter in China than in Europe and the Ottoman Empire. Thank you for listening to me, and I would like to wish you all a great conference.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wigar. It's very interesting topic that you discussed.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome. Now, I would like to, because there is a question there in the chatting. Dr. Lukman, can you see it? How to convince people on the street the importance of following the government order during Corona? Because some people, especially in Malaysia and Indonesia, most of them, they don't bother too much. They said, oh, this is nothing to do with government. We want to continue our namas, our prayers in the masjid, congregation and everything. And then Friday also they want to go. They don't want to stay at home. So how do you deal with those people from the Islamic point of view?
Your microphone is off, I think, Ustad.
No, my microphone is okay.
Okay, my microphone. Okay, thank you very much for the question. Actually, this is happened in Indonesia, but in Islamic perspective, for example, we have to make sure that the government has known in depth about the concept of the government in Islam. The government Islam is the responsible for hirasati din wa dunya. It means it is not the power. It is not. I mean, it is not emphasizing the power of ruling people, but the problem is the trust. In Indonesia, for example, 100%. Why? It is related to the policy taken by the government in previous time, and the policy has given a huge impact on the prosperity of the people. Also, in our, for example, in the case of Indonesia, for example, some people just say that we cannot trust the government 100% because of the previous situation. They are not trusted. So in Islamic point of view, the most important thing, especially in Maqasid al-Sharia, as I quoted the last of my speech, Al-Mawardi, one of the great political thinkers in Islam, wrote his book Iqamatud Dawlah li hirasati din wa dunya. The existence of the state is actually to keep and to preserve the balance of the prosperity of religious life and worldly life. Yeah. Al-Ahkam as-Sultaniyah means the rules that government should should use it when they govern the people. For this case, for example, in the case of Indonesia, government tried to make the trust come back again by giving kind of incentive to the people at the time of Corona. But still, because the country, of course, when the country is not prosperous, the money that should be given for the needs of the people at the time of Corona, of the outbreak, is limited. I don't know for the case in Malaysia, but for the case in Indonesia, there is a case that it is also corrupted by one of the government's minister. So people cannot give their trust to the government. Mostly, they just think about how to survive by themselves. Then it is the case. So the idea of teaching of making sure of the importance of Maqasid Sharia certainly needs time, so that as the educators, what we can do is to educate people. But one thing that we have to bear in mind, that in Islam, for example, for the government, this is for those who take the policy, those who are responsible for the policy of the people. In Islam, the prayer is not preceded by atina fil akhirati hasanah, but fid dunya first, worldly life first. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa fil akhirati hasanah wa qina adzabannar. It means that the prosperity of the people here in the worldly life should be prioritized by those who hold the power, who rule the government, who rule the people, the government who are in the power. It takes time. Yeah, it cannot just like clap it over your hand, for example. But I don't know for sure in the case of Malaysia, for example, because this is related to the prosperity of the people. In Arabic words, in Arabic adage, we can say there is an adage said, "Jawi kalbaka yatba'aka." Make your dog hungry so he can follow you, because you give the dog everything he or she needs. This is very important thing for the idea that government should take care of it seriously. That's in my opinion. Which one is stronger, religion or medical, especially during pandemic? What do you, question to
I
Dr.
think I think that question
Okay.
comes to me. But
Okay.
then, if you allow me, I mean, I want to mix these questions, like the question
Okay.
to you, Dr. Hakim,
Yes.
and also to me.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
I want to answer this. I mean, like I read a very nice passage already at the beginning of the pandemic last year, and like it was about obeying or disobeying. I mean, I will just put it in the comment section so you can like everyone can read it, because I will read it. But in the meantime, I thought maybe you can also. Or can I copy and paste something here? Let me see. All right. Ordinary. It's a very long one. But and it didn't take all of it. So I mean, let's just. Yeah. All right. No. Okay. This is going to be in pieces, so I cannot paste it all. But I will just. Okay. The end of it only. Right. All right. Now, if please ignore this part.
Yeah.
I'm now because it doesn't send all. Just please ignore that part. I mean, like from the second part. I will read those, so maybe that can somehow give a dimension to this discussion. Now, like I read this, actually, like at the beginning of the pandemics, there was like someone called Muhammad Fadel. He's from the US, and he's as far as I remember, he is also specialized in law. I think he's something like a lawyer, but also he's also specialized in fiqh, not only like a secular American law, but also in fiqh. So there at the beginning of the pandemics, you know that there were all kinds of videos from around the world in which they showed people denied and disobeyed the rules of the government, and they somehow wanted to go to the mosque and somehow show the strength of their belief. And what he did, what Muhammad Fadl did, was that he brought the Alim Fiqh Shatibi from North Africa. You know him from I think Andalus. You know him, I'm sure.
Andalus, yeah.
No, I'm sorry, not from Andalus, but from like 14th century. Yes, Shatibi. So he now like after a discussion, like he concludes. Now I'm reading here, like what he says here. I'm now reading my second message. He applies that he is Shatibi. Okay. So Shatibi applies the same principle to the zealous who ignore all social laws, claiming that they are trusting in God. Groups of Sufi mendicants who would go into the wilderness without provisions, trusting that Allah would send someone with provisions for them. Shatibi doesn't deny the possibility of miracles in this case, but argues that demanding Allah provide you a miracle is itself a form of seeking a dispensation from the ordinary rules governing social life, and is just as prohibited as trying to become ill to avoid fasting in Ramadan. Because like what I did not read so far, like Shatibi is like that's what he says. Apparently some people you know, like become ill so that they will be excused during Ramadan. So these people defying rules against public gatherings are essentially demanding Allah make an exception to the normal rules of causation for their benefit, and thus falls under the category of seeking out the dispensation, which is sinful. I mean, of course, like sinful, like that's what he says. So I cannot conclude that. I'm not an alim fiqh, but so this somehow gives a dimension to that. Actually, like how we should like it is our duty in this case, our duty not to spread the law, because you know it also the hadith, it says yani about ta'un, yani al-muqimu biha kashahid wal farru minha kal farri min az-zahf, yani. So if you just spread it, it's like you are running away from war. So this also brings the part that I did not add in my article, in my presentation, was like there is a huge discussion. There used to be a huge discussion about Ottoman Empire, because the Ottomans, when the plague hit them in the 16th, 17th centuries, they stayed where they were. They did not flee. But European observers and ambassadors, etc., they wanted to flee, but Ottomans did not let them flee. You have to stay where you are. And what they interpreted this as that Ottomans are too fatalistic. They are like they just wait and they don't believe in medicine, you know, etc. No, it was about, of course, to suppressing the initial duty of the believer is not to spread the disease. Therefore, I think then maybe that issue can be emphasized. I thought that now it is upon the believers that to stop the sickness. It is a primary duty. So whatever it takes to stop the spread of the disease, and of course people have the right to question whether a certain precaution is good or not. I mean, that's completely just. But once it is understood that something really needs to be done, then they should do it. Maybe that's one. That could be also another answer. And about the second question, whether religious or medical precautions should be taken, yani, I believe both, because neither is. How can I say? And both at the same time, because there is no such thing as medical precaution without the permission or help of Allah. Yani, medical deeds are physical prayers. That's all. Yani, and if you do those with the conscious of knowing that they are medical prayers, then they are also prayers. So you should both pray physically and also verbally. So that's what I wanted to say. But in the old times, I think at least in the Ottoman Empire, somehow they did it accordingly. At least in the classical age. But this division that we believe that exists between medicine and religion is a very modern thing. It's very modern and quite Western. Yani not even in classical Europe they believed it existed. It is very modern. So that's also what I wanted to say. All right. And that's the end of my answers.
Okay, thank you very much, Doctor. Yeah. If let's say we want to, this question is that if let's say we want to do you think that Muslim government should follow what the Ottoman did during the pandemic?
Of course it is different. Ottoman Empire was an early modern state, so it was not modern. So it is quite different. But in their approach to let's say taking both medical precautions but also sticking with the hadith, I think that's of course what we should do in general. Like I can give a general answer to that. Yes. Yeah, I would like to thank you. You're welcome.
Okay, thank you very much for your both of you for your kind presentation. And we for sure from time to time, because although this is going live, it will be there for some time because we already broadcast it to our Facebook as well as our YouTube channel. So we would like to thank to both of you, and then we would like to also to invite you to join our closing ceremony, which will be take place around 5:30 this afternoon. And then for your information also, Her Excellency Dr. Marwa Safa Kawadja, she is the ambassador, Turkish ambassador in Kuala Lumpur. So for sure, Dr. Iga also would like to see her, as well as Dr. Mesut Chaidash and Assistant Professor Dr. Hilal also. So with that note, I think we will end the session. Thanks very much for everything, and then have a nice day. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So session.
UTM, University Technology Malaysia. Innovative, entrepreneurial, global. A global award-winning university in engineering and technology that coexists in the community to contribute to mankind. We invest in laboratories and facilities, empowering our people to solve life challenges. We nurture innovative minds through research and teaching because innovative minds drive competitive and innovative research culture.